Yeah. What about the idea of, there's only so many hours in the day, so you've got to divvy up your time between the various platforms, and you want to hit all of them a little bit, perhaps. What about, your typical routine on social media, Mike? How do you make decisions about where to spend your time and why?
Well, it's actually an interesting story in my case because a few years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I used Google Plus exclusively because I found it to be so good, and I could use tools to have some of my posts automatically go out to Twitter and Facebook and so on.
I remember.
And then when I started in broadcasting, that worked great when I was just writing, but when I started in broadcasting as well, I still do writing, and now I'm do a daily tech show. I found out that that just wasn't going to cut it because so much of the audience was on different platforms, and I really needed to engage everywhere. So I have a different routine now. Google Plus is still my #1 site, but I think about the posts in specific categories. So there's one category of posts where I want to actively promote my show or my column. So if I write a column, I want to say, hey, here's the column, go read it. I want to drive traffic very directly. Now, if that's all I did, I would fail miserably because that's just, nobody wants to just be just sort of like promoted to all the time.
Advertised to, yeah, right.
That stuff just goes without saying. When I do a show, I do the promotion stuff. So I'll go and I'll post. I have a specific checklist where I say, okay, upload the file to Facebook and then to the page of the show. And then once that's uploaded, I share it from my personal Facebook account and then go to Google Plus and go to the Google Plus community and upload the YouTube video link to the YouTube video on that community. And on Twitter.
You mean you choose a specific community in Google Plus or just Google Plus in general?
The community, your business should have a community. Your product should have a community. So my show, Tech News Today, has its own Tech News Today community.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so notice that the media is different on each one. So I upload the entire file to Facebook for Facebook. I link to the HD version on Twitter. I paste in the YouTube, which is a lower res version, but it's YouTube and plays natively. That automatically propagates to my Tumblr page and so on. And so that's the promotion part. Now, the second category of posting that I do is I consider it blogging. I engage with content. I think about things. I see what people are posting, and I respond to it, or I talk about my ideas. And what the nature of that information dictates where it's going to go. So let me give you an example. I went to a really nice restaurant last weekend, and the food is beautiful visually. The setting is beautiful visually. So I will take a picture. I'm one of those food picture people. I took a picture of my food, and it's just that's going straight to Instagram, right?
Right.
Because they eat that stuff up literally.
Right.
And then there's a different angle. Like I'll use a different camera angle that's more amenable to Google Plus, which would have more environmental, will show people and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. If I have an observation to make, so I want to just criticize, I want to criticize somebody who's in the media or something like that, I'll just throw that out on Twitter because that's the nature of Twitter. Twitter loves those quick and dirty little observations.
Right.
If I have a fully developed idea, I want to really explore it, I'll take that to Google Plus because that's where I can have a really great conversation. If it's something about my personal life, I'll take that to Facebook. And I think it's more important to do deep quality engagement less often than it is to bang out robotically all the time. So it's kind of a fine thing that has to be fine-tuned. But you basically want to really deeply engage everywhere you engage.
So the key word I'm hearing there is the deep engagement as opposed to merely the scatter shot out there. Exactly.
They will remember a really great post for a long time, but people will not forgive you for
junk.
Low quality. They'll just unfollow you.
Right.
You lose people. So you really want to make sure that your heart's in it everywhere you go and every time you post.
Brian, what's the routine for you? I take it you wake up early and hit the platforms pretty early in the morning, maybe before morning and coffee, or what do you do every day on social media?
So I think Mike put up a really great point. I think a thing of businesses miss. They hear the word real time, and think that believes they don't, that they think, and they really try to think that there's like, that's an excuse for not having a strategy. And I actually think it's the opposite. I think the reason you're great on social media, the reason Mike knows what he's doing and drives great engagement is everything has a strategy behind it. And I think being real time is important, but I think at the right time is the key. And I really focus, when I work with brands and I hear someone talk about something, I say, you know, you want to be on the big four, but you also want to be really great at those big four before you go on to other ones. So for me,
just to be clear about the big four, spell them out.
So I'd say maybe it's even 5 now, because Instagram might be considered Facebook. But we have Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and G+.
Okay.
And so I really think of those as the big four where you need a presence on those. And you can link G+ to YouTube, and you can link Facebook to Instagram if you want to kind of tie those together. But I think having a presence is important on there, but really having a strategy behind not only what you're posting, but why and what your plan is to respond to it. Because for me, everything is about a story. It's all about not only what I'm posting, but it's the avatar you use. It's the language you use in the profile picture. You know, there's so many things that you can build upon. And I think so many brands say, well, it's real time, and I don't trust them. I don't trust my social media manager because I hired an intern instead of empowering somebody. Because you want this person to reply for your brand, tell your brand story, convey the brand message, sales, customer service. Oh wait, I want to hire him as an intern, but I want him to do these 5 things that would, you know, normally it would be someone that has a seat in the boardroom. And I think that is a conversation that really comes down to, okay, let's convey our story, let's convey our message. And I mean, engagement, I think we all three, you know, have lived and breathed the idea of engagement. I think social media can be a time suck, and I will not ever say it will not. But if you strategically understand, and I'm a big fan of tweaking notifications. So like I have certain notifications that pop up on my computer versus on my laptop. I think Mike had a phone go off and he had 4 devices go off. Sometimes I feel like that happens for me with notifications, but like I have a Pebble watch that I wear, and I actually have what I consider VIP notifications that get sent to my watch. Therefore, if a client is messaging me on Twitter, it actually vibrates my wrist to interrupt my day. But if it's someone just tweeting and I'm getting notifications, then I let that go down the way. So for me, it's a lot about strategy. I mean, I over-strategize too. I think that's a problem. I had 9 individual personal Twitter accounts when I started on Twitter because I like Pittsburgh sports, I play poker, I like social media, and all of a sudden I spent a lot more time trying to figure out what I should post where, rather than being myself, putting it into my strategy and implementing it and then engaging. So I think, you know, for me,
how many Twitter accounts do you have now that you've pulled it down?
Yeah, now I run 4 personal Twitter accounts. So
okay.
I have, but see, and I think that's an interesting piece because Twitter has had Twitter's changed my life, changed both personal and professional life. I have business partner clients and those that all contact me first. Actually, one of them is someone I've been working with for almost 2 years. We've never met in person. That's going to change June 30th, but we've never actually met in person. We've done a Google Hangout Live for 2 years every single Monday, but yet never met in person. And I think of them not only as a best friend, but someone that I've been working with and a colleague. And it's because it's more than just the social platform you're on. I don't want more followers. I don't have near as many followers as these 2 all-stars do. But for me, I want to create more people, and I have a kind of a segue here just to kind of wrap it. My dad, who's not on social media, he's owned candy companies as an entrepreneur, and I was doing a Google Hangout Live, and we all know that sometimes you get messages, and a text message comes up from my dad, a little in message, and he says, "Son, I love what you're doing, but social media will never replace a handshake." And I simply read that on there, and I said, "Dad, you're right. It will not replace a handshake, but it's going to give me the opportunity to have additional handshakes and turn some of those handshakes into hugs." And I think if a brand can truly do that, when you're engaging, you actually care. I mean, it takes a lot of work. There's no easy button. I'm not claiming this is easy. But for me, I'm a computer science major. I fell in love with social media because YouTube was teaching me amazing things. I was in communities. I was in AOL forums. All these things were making me a better person, to where I was like, well, how can I amplify this? How can I help more people? And I think when you do that, when you engage and you have a strategy. So I was smiling ear to ear when I heard Mike's strategy on each one of those, because so many people, even those that were used to be really great on Twitter or maybe really great on Facebook, they missed it. And they don't have a strategy for driving engagement on Google+, so they just complain that Google+ isn't for them. But yet they didn't build a strategy for that community, for that audience.
Handshakes and hugs, and your routine for getting maximum handshakes and hugs out there on the social media platform. How do you divvy up your time?
It's called hurling. I think we talked about that. We're hurling.
What is hurling?
I haven't yet heard with Mike and Brian yet, or you, James. But I've met people on Google Plus that I'm working with across the world, the same as Brian. And a friend of mine that I met on Google Plus is now coming in to stay with me for a few months. And I'm excited. I don't like people staying with me, and I love her personality, and we would have never connected if it weren't for this face-to-face medium. But I want to say something about what Brian was saying. Have you noticed in the last, I think, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, how many people have had to resign from their jobs because of social media?
Oh,
The
it's
head
been a
of
lot over the
FIFA.
last few years. People, I mean, because on Twitter, for example, there's a very low bar. You can say something stupid, and suddenly that's it.
But like the impact, right? Remember, the head of FIFA was there for like what, 6 years or something, and nobody was ever able to. They can't outvote him because he chooses himself as the president. And then John Oliver went on TV and said, "Hey guys, help me get this guy out because he's corrupted." Or the same thing with Rachel Donzel. Orange is the new black, right? So
Well, I think
she
that,
had right 2 days and she's out. What's that?
right. I mean, social media or technology can't fix stupid, right? I mean, stupid is just gonna. And I think part of that problem is social and tech now amplify, right? I mean, you amplify. So if you do make that mistake, you do it. It really is gonna amplify those that are doing bad or messing up. But I also think we have to think of it almost from the reverse. Think about how much social good can be done now because we're able to do the same thing. So that although now that those people that are doing bad things, and yes, if you screw up one time, that shouldn't be the mistake to fire. I think that's people that are not understanding the platform, and rather than really own the fact that they didn't trust them in the first place and everybody's human, they fire them. But I think you're right. I think it's, it is one of those things that it's not only scary, but I mean, there is so much that can be done great and bad on social media. You do have to respect the power.
The reason why I was mentioning that is because, yes, you don't want to put an intern in charge of, your contact with the world when the world can affect your business in that, in that much. So to go to what I'm doing on social media, I listen, I read, and I want to start playing with Periscope because Periscope seems like you just go in there and just start sharing your opinions. So I read a lot, and I have a bunch of opinions. I'm like, I think I can start developing relationship just by sharing my opinions, which is what I was doing on Google+. There's so much to read. You just go in there, and that's engagement. Engagement is actually not creating content, but responding to content, sharing content, mentioning people, commenting, giving them like compliments. So if you do that for like a month, you start building your audience. And you start building your relationship, and you start finding those lonely lover 52 that start talking about you and sharing you.
We all want to find a lonely lover 52
We all
for
do.
sure. Yeah, we all need one.